For the first time, a team of American and European scientists have successfully grown human eggs in a lab. Researchers at the University of Edinburgh believe their breakthrough will preserve the fertility of young women who've undergone cancer treatment, but more work is still required before the process can be clinically used. For more on this, our guest is Dr. Jennifer Kulp Makarov. She's an OB/GYN and infertility specialist. Thanks for joining us. Okay, first, walk us through exactly what we're talking about here. Growing eggs outside of the womb to maturity. That's never been done before until now.
Right. Okay. So, well, part of it's been done before. So actually, in the lab where I work in Columbus Circle at New Hope Fertility Center, we take eggs in women who are ovulating, and we can grow them from an immature stage to a mature stage where they can then be fertilized. But we can't do this for young women who are not ovulating. So that's really the breakthrough here, is that we can take some tissue from their ovary and then grow eggs from this tissue, whereas before we weren't able to help these young women.
How complicated is it? What are the steps that are needed? What breakthrough kind of had to happen?
So the very early stages, being able to grow from a piece of tissue, that's the real breakthrough. So being able to carefully harvest that tissue, which requires a surgery, and then taking that tissue in the lab. And these eggs are very delicate. They can't be open in the air. They're in small incubators. So we keep them in small incubators and then surround them with this very special fluid that changes as they develop. But the real breakthrough is taking it from the tissue from women. So we had to allow the body to do some of the initial maturation for us up until this stage, and this is taking eggs at a much earlier stage than we've ever done it.
How many eggs are they taking to get some that are viable?
So when you take a strip of ovarian tissue, there's thousands of eggs in that tissue. So we're not even like counting all those eggs. In a strip of tissue, yes, thousands of eggs, and then maturing only a small portion of those. Although in the end, we really only need one egg for a baby. So as long as we get one good one,
you need a lot
happy.
of eggs to give it a shot.
Yes, that's true.
I understand they haven't fertilized any of these eggs yet, though,
that's
right?
True.
So we
that's
don't
true.
know if that process will work or if these eggs are mature enough to accept that?
That's true. I mean, all indicators are that they're getting them to the stage right before fertilization, and it's really regulation that's prevented the fertilization. So all evidence points to that we will be able to, although correct, we have not yet, really, because not allowed to.
And would this process theoretically be used for women who want to get pregnant for their own eggs? Is that the idea here?
Really, this is for cancer patients, say women who are not ovulating on their own. IVF is works so well these days. We have hugely high success rates with traditional IVF treatments. So really, this would be for someone who is not producing their own eggs. So say for young women who are facing cancer, that's really the population. Potentially for older women who have also stopped ovulating, that may be a second population who this could help. But really right now, for younger women who are not ovulating pre-puberty.
How do you treat that traditionally right now?
Right now, we can't offer them a lot. So unfortunately, these young girls who are going through chemotherapy that affects their ovaries, they're not able to have children at this time.
And is it the prepubescent
yes, exactly.
girls that this affects the most?
Exactly. Because right now, until this technology was developed, we really couldn't harvest those eggs, and this gives us potentially the ability to do that.
And so women, older women who are ovulating and go through cancer treatments, you are able to then harvest their eggs without this?
Yes,
correct?
we're able to harvest one group of eggs. So we can harvest a limited number of eggs. This potentially we could save more eggs for them. So that could benefit them.
Once you mature the eggs, how long will they last? If you're talking about girls who are 12, 13 years old, they may not want them for 20 years.
That's true, yes. Right now, so there's two ways. They could freeze the tissue when it gets out and mature the eggs only once they want to be used, once they want to go ahead and use those eggs. Or we have a lot of experience freezing eggs at this point, where we're very good at, once the eggs are mature, freezing them. And those eggs, once they're frozen, can last many years. And that technology is very good.
How expensive is this process, or do you think it will be?
Yes, hopefully, I think a lot of health insurances are willing to cover when it's for cancer. So this is not something elective that these young girls are choosing to do, but this is because they have cancer or some other treatment like that. So a lot of times insurance will pick up part of the expense of that. Yes.
Have the cancer treatments gotten any better to try to avoid sterilization?
I think not at this point. I think, they're really focused on curing the cancer, and they almost have blindfolds on where they're not thinking about fertility. And when I've asked cancer patients later on who have been cured of their cancer, some of their regrets, it's that they didn't address their fertility ahead of time, because we just are so
focused on
just so focused on the cancer. It's such a huge thing to get diagnosed with cancer, and it's all you can think about. But later on, they found this a big regret of cancer patients that was not addressed.
How quickly can you diagnose sterilization after cancer treatment ends?
Within a few months, usually you have indicators of it. Definitely.
So basically, what's the timeline here, do you think, before we may start seeing this being performed?
So I think it will take a few years to pass through the regulations. I think that's the biggest step before seeing this performed. But I would think in a matter of a few years, it's something I could see coming in to clinical practice relatively quickly.
Okay, Dr. Jennifer Kulp Makarov with the New Hope Family Center.
Fertility Center, yes.
Fertility Center. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming down here.
Thank you so much for having me.